Do you remember what it felt like before it infiltrated every aspect of our lives? There was a time long ago when it was normal to lay here for hours, staring up at the sky. My brother and I would lie side by side, taking turns naming the shapes in the clouds. Hearts, bunnies, birds, our imaginations wild and free. Our only distraction was the honeysuckles blooming in the spring, playfully wrapping around our backyard fence, their scent pulling us in. We'd spend entire afternoons tasting the delicacy of their nectar, fingers sticky, tongues humming. And our small feet darting after one another as our plant sisters in the garden kept watch. Back then, the only news that reached us was at the neighborhood corner, kid gossip that faded by dusk. I'd race the sun home and arrive to find no constant digital buzz, no feed reminding me of everything all at once. Just the thrill of sliding a blockbuster tape into the VCR and then squeezing between my mom and brother, our bodies melting into the couch, fully present, fully together. Do you remember when simplicity came so naturally? When our attention drifted so effortlessly towards the sky, into the clouds and the spacious thoughts that followed. I remember, and I'm feeling called to return, to swim the other way, to reclaim our humanity. I think many of us are. Hello. Hello, my loves, and welcome to this beautiful pyrule tree. She has been holding me so beautifully this morning as I've just been sinking really deeply into thought. I feel like this message is fully in collaboration with the earth. The wind spirit is with us. I genuinely feel like this message is coming not just from me, but nature speaking through me. And I have come to the conclusion that humanity is endangered. And when I say endangered, I mean specifically in the way in which boundaryless technology is threatening our basic primality as human beings, specifically in the form of AI, in the form of social media and our phones, our laptop screens, our TV screens, all of the ways in which screens in general have become default and have just infiltrated every single aspect of our lives. I also say this while acknowledging that technology is such an umbrella term, and I'm very grateful for technology. Without it, I wouldn't be sitting here speaking to you, and you wouldn't be here receiving this message. There is a lot of beauty in technology, but I also believe firmly that the very essence of life requires a certain level of of intention. It requires a certain level of balance and centering in fundamental truths that make it possible for us to have harmony here on Earth. And I know that a lot of us feel as if this issue, this struggle, is a lot bigger than us. It's out of our control, but I want to affirm you and empower you. And I hope that this video does exactly that in knowing that we outpower the problem. We are the users, right? We actually have the control. And I can feel this lingering feeling that the collective, the human collective, is longing for this return to our nature. We're longing for simplicity. We're longing to be offline more and to connect with each other more, to gather. We're longing for all of the ways in which feel like medicine, like soul food for our spirits. And we can absolutely return to this. We can absolutely achieve this return. And we are in so much control that if this message just reaches one of us, one single human being, that transformation will ripple out and energetically shift the rest of us. And so this video is a bit dramatically my attempt to save humanity. And it's a collection of some of the ways in which I'm preserving my own humanity in hope that it will inspire you and rekindle this flame of your own humanity, that it will remind you of what it means to feel human again, too. When I was 5, I remember learning about our ecosystem. Like ducklings, my classmates and I would follow our teacher from tree to tree, finding our seats in the crevices of their roots as she gently explained our kinship to the billions of plants and animals around us. I remember learning that I was an organism myself, an intricate part of this earthly web of life, and that collectively, as elements of nature, we all depended on one another for both health and survival. For if one part of our fragile ecosystem became compromised, it would be similar to the collapsing of a domino, a rippling that would form a larger disruption for us all. As children, we did not fear such a thing. Yet we nodded and ran our small fingers along the bark of the trees. We understood that it was not a matter of us or them, but we. As time passed and the physical world morphed into digital, I began to ponder on whether we, humans, are the organisms that have fallen out of place, lost in a haze of amnesia, floating from one concrete box to another, and our hands tethered to metal blocks that call for our attention each moment of the day. My inner child seems to reject a reality as such, as she still reaches for the trees. She seems to hold hope that if we can remember that we are made of the very soil carrying our feet, that earth is our mother and each element of nature a sibling who desperately depends on us to look up from our screens, we can then return to a melodic alignment where our connection is a pathway to universal harmony, an endless stride towards the very source that holds our life with the utmost delicacy. You see, in restoring our relationship with Mother Earth, we naturally restore our own human nature. Humans are naturally drawn to two channels: feeling and connection. We are social, communal beings, and this very characteristic is the foundation of our well-being. Oddly, we have found ourselves living in a modern paradox, where our souls desperately yearn for connection, yet our hands hold infinite access to it. We scroll rather than gathering. We like instead of stopping to say hello. Our primary actions confined to the vertical movement of a finger, a language we've come to intimately know. But in my mother culture, community is medicine. Identity not singular, but rooted in relation. We live on through the eyes who witness us, through experiential stories that spill from familiar lips. Togetherness is our nature, an antidote to loneliness, a remedy for the longing human soul. To be in community does not mean perfection, nor is it self-serving, but a necessary nourishing act of belonging. I believe if we make this small shift, step out into the world, lower our device, and connect with the human life beaming around us, I know we can fulfill our basic need of each other. So I encourage you, ask that person if they're okay. Make eye contact and send a warm smile when they pass you by. Take interest in your neighbor, the store clerk, the gardener. You will be surprised how much real-life engagement will deeply stir your soul, because our brains light up like stars in the presence of one another. Our bodies wired to be seen. This is the true dopamine we seek, an exciting sensation for the heart, a relieving homecoming for the human body. Hello and welcome back to the sanctuary, aka our safe space, aka the bathroom, which is the perfect space, I feel like, to explore restoring ourselves and setting boundaries with the technology in our lives. When I was thinking about this topic, I wrote so many notes and I realized that I have a billion things to say about this, so much so that I could probably write a thesis. So with that being said, sink in, get cozy, maybe get yourself a cup of tea and join me in that activity. I'm just gonna dive in. So I came into the world in 1998, and this was such a special era to grow up in because household computers were really just becoming a commonality, and also the internet was really just starting to take off. So it was rare that I had much interaction with the internet, but I do have one memory. I think it was my first time ever using it. And I had come home from elementary school. I told my mom I needed to use the internet. And we had this big, clunky Dell computer that sat on a desk. And it had this really tall chair to accompany it. And it was tall to me at the time because I was so little. But I like climbed up and we turned it on, and the computer, generated, and I had to click the internet icon and it opened up to this big World Wide Web. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like this is such a thing. And it felt so distant from the grounding reality I had known. It was just like this endless void of I didn't really know at the time, but just worlds upon worlds. I bring this up because I come from the last generation to experience growing up without technology being integrated into every single part of our lives. And I believe that having experienced this kind of reality is what has impacted my relationship with social media, with my phone, and now AI. So much so that I tend to be the odd one out in my friendships and my family dynamics as someone who is typically chronically offline and in radical rejection of living my entire life in the digital realm. And so I thought it might be helpful to just bring you into my mind, bring you into my perspective, and some of the boundaries that I've set as a way to help you kind of steer through the pressures of being digitally ever present nowadays. So there are two mindsets that I have. The first being that I see the human brain as an ancient instrument, not a machine. And so I think if we can understand that we are nature, we can also understand that our minds are made to move at nature's pace. So think sunset, sunrise, the seasons, the moon cycles, or even the subtle, slow movement of the trees and the wind. We can take that wisdom in and understand that we are a part of that slow movement, right? So biologically, we are not made to be consuming these infinite, endless streams of data all of the time. It simply is misaligned with our nature. And I found that dishonoring our brain in this way is a recipe for overstimulation and the general disequilibrium of our brain's chemistry, which just leads to a lot of mental health struggles a lot of the time, which then leads to issues with our relationship with self, our relationships with others, right? The way that we live our lives, and the list goes on. And so I find that keeping this front of mind is what really helps me show up on a daily basis, honoring my brain, honoring my body, honoring my spirit, and not allowing the stimulation that exists in so many areas of my life to kind of whisk me away and pull me out of this natural state of being that is so vital to this ecosystem. Secondly, I hold this understanding that presence is our natural state of being. So if you are struggling with any kind of social media addiction or phone addiction, I want you to rest in knowing that it is not your fault whatsoever. There is so much money, intention, and effort put into feeding you these personalized hooks that keep you scrolling past your body's comfort level. But know that your body is wise, that your soul is wise, and to be present is literally wrapped up within your DNA. But I do find that returning to that state of being requires setting certain boundaries and also a little bit of radical rejection of social norms. I would say my most effective boundary is losing my phone on purpose. Just putting my phone somewhere, whether it's in my nightstand or just like honestly random places in the house. I lose things a lot. That's just like a little tidbit about me. I misplace almost everything, especially my chapstick. Like I've been losing my chapstick chronically since I was born. So I'm pretty good at this. It's so effective because you are so immersed into your physical, literal life that you realize when you actually need your phone, you're like, oh, I need my phone to do this. And you have to go and fetch it. You have to go search for it. And so it's not just this thing that like ends up being a sidekick, right, for every activity, which is really nice. But when I do pick up my phone, another practice that has been extremely effective for me, and I know that this is really going to help you too, is introducing a buffer. So when you pick up your phone, ask yourself, what am I seeking right now? What am I looking to fulfill? And I promise you, more times than not, what you're seeking is not going to be on your phone. And a lot of the time, I find myself actually seeking art or a book or a conversation, right? Or maybe I just need stillness. And I thought that the stillness was on my phone, but it's really right here, right now. It really helps to redirect you into something that could be a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more fulfilling, right? A little bit more loving to yourself. Also, I do think that a lot of us have a tendency to treat our phones as sedatives, using them as a form of escape from our emotions, definitely from discomforting situations, awkward situations. I think we all can relate on that, just pulling out your phone when things just get weird and you're like, I need to escape from this right now, or like look distracted. So I'm not speaking about this in a purely negative way. I think that it has its pros and cons, and that the choice to do so should definitely be intuitive. But I do think that it's worth exploring with yourself when you're having a difficult emotion and you find yourself escaping it by going onto your phone and kind of running away from it. I think that there may be a benefit in being aware of that and instead meeting yourself maybe with a little bit more curiosity, holding the space for yourself and exploring what you're feeling, because simply feeling an emotion is what really opens up a lot of personal insights and inner channels to help you get to know yourself better and to help you work through the emotion. And so I just wanted to mention that as well, that although it can be a sedative in great ways, I think also that it could be a bit self-sabotaging as well. Another practice that I have is being very intentional and structured about my relationship with social media. I personally have a very distant relationship with socials, but I'm not by any means telling you to do the same. I think that your relationship with socials should be intuitive and very personal decision to make. But as we all know, when we don't have boundaries with social media, it can lead to a lot of things like impacting our nervous system. It can lead to, being a source of distraction, a source of comparison, information overload, and the list goes on. And so if you are seeking to create a healthier relationship with social media, these are some of the practices that have helped me. So one is choosing a specific time in the day to engage, to welcome the world into your space. And I want you to think of this like opening your literal front door and welcoming the entire neighborhood in. We're inviting new connections, new energy, new experiences. We're welcoming it all into our sacred space. And when we think of it this way, it allows us to be more mindful of social media, right? Because it is a social event and you're simply not going to host a social event, right? With your PJs all twisted, your eyes crusty, you just woke up, you groggy, all the things. And so if we put it in this perspective, it allows us to move a lot more intentionally about preparing, grounding ourselves to enter a digital space and being prepared to meet all of that new energy, right? Instead of just like tumbling into it and allowing it to sway us all kinds of ways. Another really great boundary to have is using social media on your desktop. This is such a simple shift, but will change your life. There is something about going from this to this that makes you go, man, I don't want any more of it. Like, I'm done. There are more steps involved with getting on social media on your laptop because you have to like open your laptop, go to the browser, type in Instagram, scroll and engage. And at that point, you're like, I'm doing an activity, I'm here, I've arrived. Whereas on your phone, it's so easy for us to just swipe and click, and then we're in an entirely different world and we can be there forever, right? It's so easy for our thumbs to scroll. And so I think breaking the habit of the thumb scroll to the motions that you engage in on a laptop really can break a cycle of endless scrolling, and it makes you more aware of the activity that you're doing. My last social media tip is to challenge yourself. So I know that some people do time limits, some people delete the app and re-download it. If that works for you, that is so wonderful, and I'm so grateful it works for you. I have witnessed a lot of people in my life just it not work for them. I watch my partner all the time just like bypass his time limit. And then other like friends that I have who delete and re-download, there's like a tone of punishment around it. And so I don't think that's healthy either. I would encourage you to treat this as an act of self-discipline. Treat this as a challenge of this is me versus me. And it's me versus the app as well, okay? And this is where I have landed. Like the apps exist on my phone. I just choose not to engage. And it is truly the most freeing feeling because I feel like I control the app. The app doesn't control me. And so that would be my goal for you is have the app exist and allow that buffer that we talked about to also exist. What am I seeking right now? If that's entertainment, if that's connection, if that's inspiration, maybe it is social media that you're seeking. But I'm willing to bet that more times than not, it's probably not going to be that. Your social media use will probably decrease a lot because the dependence that they have convinced us that we have on social media is an illusion. It is not real at all. What we're seeking is often rooted in the physical. It's in our hobbies, it's in the sunlight, on the ground. It is with all the beings that be. It's within ourselves. Again, there is a lot of benefit in engaging in social media, but knowing and having control over, I choose this, I choose to engage in this, will completely change your life. Absolutely, absolutely. To close out the social media conversation, I just encourage you to use social media in a way that helps you, that feeds you, rather than hurts you. And your intuition, your body, your spirit will know exactly what is happening at all times when you're engaging and whether it's depleting you or elevating you. So I would argue that my most life-changing boundary has been not forcing myself to be readily available and accessible at all times. I grew up watching my grandmother write the most beautiful handwritten letters to her friends, and she would write them, and then we'd climb in the car on a hot summer's day in her Lincoln and ride over to the post office, and she'd drop them all off, and then we'd return and await her friends' responses. And I just thought it was the most precious thing. And my grandmother is someone who has not advanced with the digital realm. She kind of teetered out and moves at a slower pace. And I find that there's a lot of wisdom in that, because the way in which that we all feel like we have to be readily available and accessible is only due to the advancement of technology, where we feel like technology is advancing, so we have to advance with it. Whereas the reality is we don't. We can recognize that we are singular human beings. We are organisms. We are organisms. Like, our arms only stretch this wide. We only have 2 arms, we have 2 hands and 10 fingers. Technology has made us feel like we are meant to be octopi, right? Like, we must have our hands everywhere. We must be able to respond to this person and that person at all moments of the day. And that is simply just an unrealistic expectation. And I right now am releasing that pressure from you. And I think I need that too, because I'm someone that really struggles with guilt for not responding to friends, family, to you guys in a very quick fashion. I think it's just this feeling of imbalance of receiving and not being able to give at the same rate. But we just have to recognize that it is simply impossible for us to move at the same rate as technology when we're meant to move at nature's pace. Like I said earlier, I personally can feel my inner child rejecting a reality as such, because she says, well, if I'm always responding, if I'm always available to everyone else, when will I ever be available to life? Won't I miss the starlight? Won't I miss the bird song? Won't I miss the leaf, rustling across the land? There's so much that we miss whenever we are moving at the pace of technology and available to everything except this here and now moment. And so yeah, if this resonates with you and it's something that you also want to release, this pressure to be ever present in the digital realm, I encourage you to communicate this to your friends, to your family, to anyone in your community who maybe is trying to reach you and has certain expectations of you, because I think it's the expectation that often gets us in this cycle of feeling like we have to be available to everybody and their mama. And speaking of mamas, let me know if you can relate to this, but I do feel like there is a different kind of pressure to be available from family, and specifically with my mom. If she calls me more than one time, I get this like intense anxiety where I feel like something's wrong, and it's been that way since I was a little girl. Something that I have like been healing through, but yeah, I think that we have to be very clear in our communication to our family about our availability. Like, hey, during certain moments of the day, I'm not going to be available, and if you do call me and I don't answer, please do not continue to call, especially if it's not an emergency, because this does X, Y, and Z to my nervous system, right? Yeah, I just think family specifically has this, for whatever reason, expectation that they should have endless access to you, and that's just also simply impossible. So communication is key here, and it will save us all. I've really been talking for forever at this point. I feel like I'm getting lightheaded. Oh my gosh. Lastly, in regards to AI, I do think that this is the advancement that is causing the most fear among humanity, and also is influencing this collective longing for a return to simplicity, a return to groundedness. And so I want to share some ways that you can protect yourself from AI encroaching on your life and your psyche, because unfortunately it is deteriorating the human brain, and I think that there are a lot of ways that we can protect ourselves from being victims of that. My first piece of advice is to imagine yourself as humanity's only hope. And I know that sounds a bit doomsday, a bit existential. Oh, my candle's coming out. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of humanity right now is offloading their brains, offloading their psyche, offloading their ability to critically think, to analyze, to problem solve, and giving it to a robot. Over time, this is deteriorating the human brain. It is reducing our brain's plasticity, and ultimately, there could come a time where we need basic survival skills. We need our ability to think thoroughly and clearly. We need our ability to come up with solutions because we don't have the internet as resource, where our brains are our only resource. And so to preserve that part of yourself will really serve humanity if there does come a time where that's needed. But when you are using AI, or if you do use I really encourage you to use it. Don't let it use you. And ways you can use it really for a method of expansion could be like learning new vocabulary, for example, or learning new and interesting facts. When you do use AI, I encourage you to do further research and to double check it because it is a very unreliable platform. For whatever reason, I think that they made everyone think that it was something that was completely accurate and unable to be wrong. But AI is actually very inaccurate and it cannot be relied upon. So always go further and do the extra research. I think that a lot of people are being sent out into the world with misinformation because of that kind of manipulation. And also, I would encourage you to think of AI as a social media. And the reason I say that is because it's based on algorithm. It's telling you what you want to hear. It's trying to keep you on, right? That's why it keeps encouraging you to prompt it. And I mean, it's prompting you. So just like recognizing the just recognizing the manipulation, recognizing the pull, and knowing when to push back, knowing when to cut it off, knowing what you came there for, gathering and then leaving, and not allowing it to just like keep you cycling. Also, I beg you, please, please preserve your craft. If you are a writer, write. If you are a designer, design. If you are an artist, make art. Please do not give away your talent and your ability to bring forth creation to AI, to a robot. At the end of the day, human beings are so unique because they're able to create. We create from the source that is our life force, right? Your creations are unique and beautiful because they are imperfect, because they are made by you as a human. And so offloading such a sacred act of creation to a robot, it's just never going to be enough. It's never going to fully satisfy you the way that creating from your own source of life is going to fulfill you. Lastly, I want you to remember that our brains are muscles. A muscle has to be exercised in order to maintain itself, in order to grow, in order to expand. There are a lot of studies and research coming out showing the impact that this is having on our brains, and it's quite scary. I know a lot of us use AI for a variety of things. Something that I have preserved in my life is the act of researching. There's something very sacred and important about going to look for an answer and reading, reading an article, reading a book, analyzing, extracting, making a decision on whether it's relevant, right? This ability to critically think, we have to return to so that we can be functioning human beings. And in a society where humans aren't thinking for themselves, it scares me, truly. I think that's why I feel so called to speak about this and to reach whoever I can, because I know that it's a lot more comfortable, right? It's a lot more easier to just offload things to AI. But comfort is not always good. What does a society, a global society, look like where most of humanity is not functioning? Sometimes we have to talk about the hard things and the places that we collectively are falling short in, and Yeah, try to do a cleanup job on it, right? Try to uplift each other, try to support each other, meet each other where we're at, and like bring us back to equilibrium. And that's what I'm hoping this video does. So that is the end of my TED Talk. I hope that these boundaries and practices help you find a middle ground, help you balance between the physical and the digital. As a child, life was full of liminality. Each moment of excitement or play was shortly balanced by this cleansing state of boredom. I'd regularly find myself settling beneath the ceiling fan, staring blankly as it spun in slow, hypnotic circles, each thought mounting itself upon the blades and then letting go, releasing itself into the atmosphere. You see, back then, there was nothing to fill the pause, no stimulation to accompany each and every breath, just me, space, and time. A renewing trio with an unspoken pact to never detach. Because to be present with the mundane is a healing remedy for our human brains. A reclamation of our attention, an invaluable currency that we must spend with intention. Simplicity, I find, is a paved pathway to joy, where the act of boredom is the cozy nook our bodies seek, the wide open field our thoughts need to dance. It is a space to savor the details of this existence and surrender to the healing remedy of just noticing, being, and breathing. Simplicity is a reminder that our souls do not depend on artificial stimuli when the purest form of stimuli lingers all around us. With every passing moment, it is the light spilling in that calls for our attention, the leaf reflecting itself on the window, or the birds calling us outside to witness the sunset as they take flight home. It is up to us to look up. It is up to us to answer the call. Yet, it is true that other worlds do call for our attention. Many landscapes that exhale in faded, woody tones. Infinite knowledge woven into every corner turned. Each one a journey traveled by 1,000 minds, where stories have been passed on again and again. Reading is a sacred collaboration between author, reader, and idea. Reading is a sacred act of preservation, rooted in the belief that we are all meant to be keepers of knowledge. Our spirits are drawn to these small portals connecting humans across time. A gardening of sorts for the human mind, a watering of meaning and wisdom. To open a book feels like a downpour of relieving rain in the fires of digital noise. They seem to restore the running rivers of our inner worlds, carrying us through the canyons of adventure and discovery. Miracles we can only seem to find when words meet paper. So may we extend the gift of reading to our yearning brains. May books help us return to the fundamental feeling of being human, this relentless search of knowledge, understanding, and connectivity. May we root in the knowing that to read is to remember how to live, and to live is to leave something worth reading. I feel like I used to enter the portal of reading so much more frequently. And then it was like I entered adulthood and reading almost became this like serious thing. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of fell off from being in love with the act of reading. And so I have some tips for you because I have found a formula, one, to fall back in love with reading if you don't feel that zest, that love anymore. And two, how to integrate reading into every single part of your life so seamlessly that you don't even think about picking up your phone. Actually, one of them does require your phone, but it's like a way to break the social media habit. So let's get into it. I have some good stuff for you. Okay, so how I fell back in love with reading was actually through fiction, reintroducing fiction. When I was a little girl, I used to read fiction all the time. Fiction was such a portal for me, and I don't know what happened. Like as an adult, it's just like it kind of was swept away, and I have found that fiction just has a way of reigniting your imagination, reigniting this deep spark of creativity. And I also find that when I'm reading and learning vocabulary, I retain it a lot easier, a lot more, because you're fully immersed in a character's journey. And so I think the vocabulary becomes a little bit more relevant in a way. It makes more sense because you're there and you need it to understand what's happening. And so, yeah, fiction has just been a really nice break for my brain at the end of the night, really allowing me to just offload all of the seriousness of adulthood and immerse myself in a really good story through words. So that is how I return to the art of reading. Okay, and then my formula for integrating reading into every part of your day is having a specific reading that nurtures you as you ebb and flow as the day is moving on. So, for example, I have specific books that I read in the morning to accompany my ritual, and books like that are like A Dose of Poetry, Mary Oliver devotions, or something to heal my soul, to accompany me on my journey in ancestral healing. So right now I'm reading The Healing Wisdom of Africa, something that just speaks to my spirit and stirs me at the beginning of the day. Really feels good for my spirit. And yeah, and then as like a casual read, in the midst of my day when I do go to pick up my phone. Lately, I've been liking Substack. I'm really new to Substack, but I like that I can get on my phone and go and do something that feels nurturing. And I found that it's a really great act to break the habit of doom scrolling on other social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, reaching for a Substack maybe, but being intentional about why you're there. Like I'm getting on Substack to read, rather than doom scroll on Substack because you can get stuck doing that. So you do have to be intentional about your use still when you're using any kind of screen, but I say that to say my casual read will be an article on Substack, and that helps me to continue this habit of reading throughout the day. And then I will have a read to nurture my creativity. So I love The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I actually began this on as an audiobook and then I stopped because I realized that I wanted to see the words. So I'm picking up the physical version now. But something that just maybe feeds your hobby, it feeds your creativity, it feeds your yeah, whatever is calling you at the time. And then at night, I will go for my fiction, which is Children of Blood and Bone. So I kind of have a little something for every single part of the day. And then two other books I just wanted to mention. We Are in the Middle of Forever, Indigenous Voices from Turtle Island on the Changing Earth. This I'm just now getting into. And this, The Comfort Crisis, which I think is really relevant to what we're talking about today. A call to swim upstream against the currents of comfort and ease that we seek and have grown unquestioningly used to. Not for the soft or faint of heart, this appeals to the tough or those who seek to be. A good read that challenges conventional wisdom about living life. So I'm about to get into this. And then also Henry David Thoreau's Walden and Civil Disobedience, which my partner just recently put me on. Yeah, those are all of my current reads. Okay, my loves, I feel like this video was such a journey for us all, but I hope that along the way, a remembering stirred within you and that you found many pathways to make the return to that which is your human nature. May we all just find the pause. May we all slow and return to that which makes us human. May we join our animal kin and our plant kin who are highly intelligent in restoring harmony here on earth. And may we all just find our way back to ourselves, find our way back to each other. I love you so dearly, so deeply, and I am sending you so much love in the meantime. I write you love letters every month, so if you would like to sign up, you can do so below. And until then, all the hugs in the world. I'll see you next time. Mwah.